What's going on, everyone? Greatest Hits here, and today it's the day that I put the camshaft kit in. I'm gonna start by replacing the trunnions on the rocker arms, replacing the push rods, and hopefully the push rods that I bought is the correct length and everything like that. Other than that, the dual valve springs, the valve seats, and then of course the cam. For the past 3 weeks since I made the other video back in December 24th, I've been doing a lot more research on how to do this build and everything like that, and the cam swap and stuff. And I've noticed with my oil pan that even if I take all the bolts out, I'm probably not gonna have enough room to get the oil pump out and replace the timing chain as well. So I might not do that for this camshaft kit build. I might just replace the camshaft and the valve train and the springs and stuff like that. I really have no room to pull down this oil pan because it'll be sitting on the steering rack, and you have the subframe and stuff like that. So I'm in my garage. I had to move some stuff around, yeah, unfortunately my friends were kind of busy, so they weren't able to let me use their shop and everything like that. So I'm here at my house, like I said before, and I'm doing this build. And I'm excited because, when I put all this back together and it's running and everything like that, it's going to be great. Also, the fuel injectors, the 36-pound fuel injectors, I'm going to be putting those in after I take this car down to AC's High Performance to get it tuned. Once I'm there, I'm going to swap out the fuel injectors once the engine starts to cool down and there's no fuel pressure on the fuel rails. So I'm gonna swap them out, and then I'm gonna get it tuned, and then after that, Rocket Bird's gonna be good to go. Now, as far as the oil pump and the timing chain right here, this is a high pressure oil pump. I was gonna go with a high volume, but I've been asking questions at Texasspeed. The guy's name is Jason, and I talked to him quite a bit about what I'm doing to my LS1, and he told me to get a high pressure oil pump. But from the research that I've been seeing and everything like that, if you're, I guess running boost, or if you have a high performance engine or anything like that, then a high pressure oil pump is recommended. But I'm not going to be making stupid amount of power yet, so I don't think this is necessary. So I should have went with a high volume, which is more oil flow going through all the parts and rotating assembly in the engine. The highest oil pressure this thing can get is like 75 to 80, but every time I launch this car, the oil pressure rises up to about 72 and 75 at the most. It never really goes to 80. So I'm gonna pass on this and swap it out for a high volume the next time I do more work on this car. And I'm actually gonna pull the motor out because this is a pretty tight space, and F-bodies are a bit of a pain to work on sometimes, especially in the engine and transmission and stuff like that. I won't be able to put this timing chain on. This is a Rollmaster timing chain right here, like I said in my other video. And the reason why is because the timing chain is sitting right behind the oil pump, and there's no way I'm going to take it off unless if I take off the oil pump. Now, when you take off the 4 bolts, there's another bolt on the bottom. Let me show you here. There's a pickup tube that connects to the actual oil pump, and there's a bolt, and you have to put a wrench down in there to kind of break it loose, and gets like a magnet or something to take it out, or else you'll drop it in the oil pump or oil pan, and you basically got to take the whole motor out now, and I don't want to do that. So let me show you guys again. This is how it's going to sit. Focus, whatever. Anyways, this is how it's gonna sit right here. Oh gosh, not much lighting here. This is how it's gonna sit right here. The oil pickup tube is gonna sit right underneath here, and then as you can see, there's a hole right there. That's where the bolt goes, right there. And yeah, I'm not doing that. Screw it. So I'm just gonna put the cam in there, the valve springs and everything else like that, and we're gonna call it a day and tune it, get the fuel injectors in there, and that's it. And I'll deal with that later in the future video. I do have some other parts for Rocket Bird. It involves deleting the AC, so I probably gave it away right there, but you know, hey, whatever. But we're gonna get down to it. I'm gonna show you guys how to disassemble everything and stuff like that, and I'm going to explain it as best as I can, because this is my first time, like I said before, so newbie. I'm excited, so let's get into it, and hopefully I'll be done later tonight or tomorrow morning at around 9-10 o'clock. By the way, today's Saturday, so hopefully I'll be done by the end of the day or Sunday tomorrow morning. So yeah, I've already took some things apart, and I drained the oil, and all I need to do now is drain the coolant so I can take the radiator out to take the cam all the way out. Alright guys, so basically what you need is a ratchet, an extension, and an 8mm socket to take these 4 bolts off on each side. I'm going to start on this side, take the valve cover off. I bought new valve cover gaskets for it as well. And once I take this off, I'm going to take one rocker off. And I'm going to put the Texasspeed Harden Pushrod in there. And I'm going to check for lash and see if it has too much play up and down. Now, if it has a little bit of play, side to side, then that's fine. Nothing to be worried about. But if it has too much play up and down, then that means the push rod is too short. I do have a push rod checker, but I'm just going to throw the Texasspeed push rod in there, and that'll automatically tell me if I have the right push rod or not. So now when I put that rocker back on there, I'm going to snug it. And not torque or anything, just snug it, hand tight, and I'm just gonna check for play, and that'll tell me if there's any play or not. So yeah, let's get to it. Now, when you put these bolts back in, you're really not supposed to torque these bolts. So, you just hand tighten them, and that's it. So, yeah. Let's take this off. Yeah, that's gonna have to come out some more. Okay, there we go. That should come all the way out now. Alright. Yeah, here we are. That's what it looks like inside. Here are the rockers. These are the springs right here. There's keepers inside these valves. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this out. This is 22 foot-pounds on these bolts on all these rockers. And the valve shouldn't drop. And the reason why the valve shouldn't drop is because there's keepers And what the keeper does is hold that valve in place with that spring and everything else. And if you loosen this bolt up, the actual spring is going to lift up much further, and you'll be able to disassemble everything. Now I was gonna use compressed air, but I changed my mind, and I'm going to do the top dead center method. And what that is that the top dead center is pistons number 1 right here. The valves are going to be lift all the way up, and the springs are going to be relieved of compression, and the piston is going to sit to the height of the cylinder head. And when I go ahead and take the springs off, the valve is not going to fall down into the combustion chamber, because if that happens, I'm gonna have to pull out the motor, take off the cylinder heads, and it's just gonna be a lot of work. So yep, let's do this. Alright, that rocker arm is off. Now I can take this out. So when you take everything apart, if you're not replacing it, put it all back in the same spot, because the engine has a wear pattern. And if you just mix up everything on this engine, you put everything back together, you're going to have some major problems. You're going to wear down your engine faster, and things are going to break. If you can see right there, that's the push rod, and the push rod has a hole in it because the oil pump, what it does, there's a pickup tube first, and then you have oil down in the bottom of the engine. The oil kind of picks up, the oil pickup tube picks up the oil, runs it through the oil pump, and then it rises up to the cam, your lifters, and then your lifters shoot oil through this hole and lubricate this lube this push rod. So I'm gonna take that out. Take it out like that. There's the push rod right here. You can roll it on a table and see if the push rod is straight or not, but sit this right here, and I'm gonna put this aftermarket push rod on here. I'm just gonna lay it in there and see if I have any too much play. Length, they say length doesn't really matter. It's all in specification or whatever. Like I said, I'm new at this, so I'm just trying to learn as I go. So I'm just gonna throw this in here like that. What I'm gonna do is snug this up like that. I think it's fine. I think it's the right push rod. It's not moving up and down, so that has to be the right push rod. Please be patient with me, guys, because I've done a lot of research and I'm confident about doing this job, but I'm still kind of learning as I go, and I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. Take this out. The difference between this push rod and this push rod is that this one has like a ball on it. If it can focus. I don't think it will. Hold on. That this one has a ball on it, if y'all can see, and this one doesn't. It's solid. I think that's why they call it Harden Pushrods. Make sure when you put these valve cover gaskets back on that they're seated flush all the way around the valve cover. Mine's looks pretty good for a 188,000 mile motor, although the engine's been rebuilt a couple years ago, I think back in 2017, but it still looks pretty good. So I will have these bolts up, that way it's easier to install. That way the threads won't actually hit onto the valve train. Alright guys, here's the trunnion right here. You want to make sure the lettering is on the outside of the trunnion on both sides. My camera's not really focusing well. There it is. if you can see that lettering. You want it facing outward that way on both sides. And here's the tool right here. AXS. I got this tool from Amazon, and I got a vise right here. Although it's not bolted down, but you know, I'm just, you know, this is all I got, so I'm just gonna have to work with it. And basically there's a magnet back here, so you can just kind of press this on here and then take this tool right here on the other side and go like it goes like that, and then take the vise and compress it, and the whole trunnion should come out of this rocker. And you want to do the same thing on all 16 rocker arms, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna finish pretty much all the rocker arms, and when I finish all of them, then I'm going to start taking the valve springs off. So I had to put this on the ground, but here it is. Little needle bearings. See how it's coming apart so easily. They're not very good at holding a good amount of horsepower at all, and these tend to fail when you're making a lot of power. Probably around 400 plus to the wheel or more, but this upgrade will definitely do the trick. Now, the retrofitted trunnions from comp cams that I bought, they're really good, but I've heard that they're not as good as the solid bearings that don't have needles in them, because these have needles in them too, but they're stronger. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab one of these and place it in. I'm gonna grab the vise, but basically what you do is this is the same procedure with all the rockers and everything with the trunnions. What you want to do is that you want to take this and then the bearing, and you want the letters facing outward. So turn this around. And then you want to put this in the bore of the rocker arm like this, and it's going to fit kind of flush, and you want to sit it on here. So let me show you real quick. And grab the vise and then push it on there, and it's going to fit in flush. After that, you want to take one of the trunnions, sit it in here along with the letters facing outward on the trunnion, and take one of these washers, and press it on like that. And take one of the washers after you install this, put one of the washers over this and make sure it's center, and take the vise and just slowly turn it in there until it's flush. You want this to be kind of exposed, that way you can put the snap rings on here, and that's pretty much it, guys. Alright guys, so I got all the trunnions in the rockers. This was a pain in the butt, and I will never do this again, but I got them all in. The only problem that I have with this one is that I don't have the white, not the white lettering, but I don't have the lettering on the outside of the bushing on this trunnion, but it shows the lettering on the other side, which, let me show you, see if it'll focus. But anywho, this is kind of critical, and you want the lettering to be on the outside and not the inside. So I might have to break this down again and carefully and put it back on. So like I said, this is my first time, so there's going to be a lot of trial and error. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put the push rods in. I used the push rod checker, and I have the right push rods. There are 7 and 400s, so I'm going to put the new push rods in there with some assembly lube, and go from there. So here's this tool for the valve springs, and here are the keepers sitting right in here. If y'all can see, keepers are sitting right there, those little metal things. They're holding the valve together. That's literally the only thing that holds the valve together and keeps it from dropping into the cylinder. So here's this tool. I'm gonna post this tool on I'm gonna post this tool in my description along with the other tools that I use. And you basically want to tighten these bolts up and start turning that nut until they compress down enough so you can get the keepers out. And once you finish doing that, push the valve springs all the way back up, take the valve springs out, put the new ones in. Here's the assembly lube I'm going to be using. I got this from O'Reilly's. It's pretty good assembly lube. I've researched it before I actually went ahead and bought it. So this is pretty good stuff. When you put this push rod in, make sure you put some engine assembly lube on the tips on both sides. So alright guys, I am back. So I got all the dual valve springs in there with the keepers. Make sure you put the keepers in the exact same spot that you took it off before. So I'm on my last one. I will show you guys the other side in just a second. So yeah, it looks pretty good. Let me just say, get the right valve spring compressor, because the one that I had before, it was able to compress these single valve springs, but it wasn't able to compress these dual valve springs, partially because I was using my ratcheting wrench and I stripped the actual tool, so I had to wait 2 days for this trick flow to come in. So you can see right there, it says trick flow on the bracket right here. This is made to actually cover the whole side of the valve spring, no matter what valve springs you're compressing down to put the new ones in and stuff like that. So it's doing really good so far, guys. This is about 80 bucks at Summit Racing. That's where I bought it from. You can buy it anywhere else like Amazon, eBay. Now I'm using the top dead center method. I'm not putting air, compressed air inside the cylinders, just because I really don't want that valve to drop, and if it drops, then it's over. So what I did was I kept turning the motor until the piston went up, and I was using this bore scope right here. When you turn it on, sorry about that, let me turn this on for you guys. This was $114 at O'Reilly's, and it works really well. As you can see the camera, but this is the LED light right here, and a camera. You basically put it in the hole, and while I turn the motor with this breaker bar, I watch the piston go all the way up until it comes back down again, and then I turn it the other way so it can go up as far as possible, so I can, you know, compress the valve springs, get the keepers out of the valve, and put the new springs and everything like that on there. I'm using my phone, but here's the other side. It looks really, really freaking cool. So I put some assembly lube on the tip of that valve, on each valve. That way when I put the rocker back on, it has some lube already on it when I go and crank up the motor. That way it doesn't start up dry before the oil comes up. You want to start by using a ratchet. No air tools at all, unless if you're putting the harmonic balancer back on and you don't want to torque it to 250 foot-pounds. So you want to, this bolt is 13 millimeters. The kit came with 3 bolts, this bolt here and here, and then 1 nut. I got some paper towels down here so it doesn't, so the keepers doesn't fall, and because I've dropped them more times than you guys may think. Literally, I'm not even joking. I probably dropped them 30 to 50 times on the ground. It's been on the motor, and just ridiculous. So you basically just want to ratchet this thing up. You just keep doing this until you see the valve come up. There you go. So I'm gonna press these down more so I can get these keepers all the way out, and they look about good to me. Put that to the side. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, use a HW6 tool right here. When you put the rocker arms on, it's the same size, because they give you new bolts from Texas Speed, and the new bolts are different from the stock bolts. Alright, use a magnet. It is the best thing to do. The magnets are your best friend. Sometimes they're not when you're trying to put the keepers back in, and I tell you what, that one way back there, cylinder 8, is a pain in the butt. Now what you do is loosen this up slowly, and then you can start moving a little bit faster. And by the way, this is the first engine I've ever torn down like this. I've never gone way in depth in doing valve springs and putting keepers in and push rods and a camshaft and all this kind of stuff. I've never done anything like this, and it's really freaking cool. And I'm doing this on my own car. Cars that I've had before, I just let somebody else do the work, and if I'm up for it, I'll do it myself. So there are the valve springs right here. Just take them out. You can get a vice grip or whatever. I'm gonna use these, and you basically just go around here and get these valve seals out, and just kind of be careful, I guess. There you go. That one's out. And then that one's out. Now, you put the new valve seals in. I would apply a little bit of oil on the valve seals. Now, when you sit these valve seats in here, just sit them in there. Just Now you'll notice that it's not seated all the way. Now what I've researched is that when you put these valve springs in here and you compress them, it should allow the seat to compress all the way to the head of the cylinder head. So I kind of push these valves down, and as you can see, it's hitting the piston, so you know that it's at top dead center and it's not going to come out ever. Sure, dual valve springs in here. And then your titanium retainers in here like that. Take this plate right here, and you want this little groove right here facing downward. That way it kind of seats on the valve springs. Put in that hole in there. Basically tighten this thing up. You can see it's going down. I'm going to stop right about there, like this. You kind of have to, I would sit them sideways, like that. Sit them sideways, see how that. And another thing, let me take this off for you guys, if it can focus. Focus. Well, anyways, this keeper, there's a certain side that you want to see. There it is right there. As you can see, the top part of that keeper is a little wider than the side on the bottom, and you want this facing upward. So that's how it goes in like that. So wait, place this in here. And you just lift them back up. That's pretty much it. Here's the back of the water pump. These are the old gaskets right here. And when you take these bolts out, I don't know if it's recommended or not, but I would put them all back in the same spot they were before. Now, when you take about 3 of these water pump bolts off, you can actually thread them up on the cam, and it'll be easier for you to take the cam out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put these new gaskets on here. They just go on like that. I'm just going to keep the bolts threaded in. Now, there's no inside or outside on this. There's no lettering or anything, so just slap them on there. I got a pry bar, and I'm gonna see if this works. Basically took my pry bar and kind of wedged it on the side of the harmonic balancer pulley, and yeah, so let's try it. I got this harmonic balancer dampener right here. We already have it installed in here, if y'all can see that. This is a 3/8 ratchet that I'm using, and I just kind of bolted it to that hole, but I'm going to show you guys in a minute after we take this off. But there's 3 jaws, or not jaws, 3 claws that go onto the balancer and hold it, and then you just crank this down like you're tightening it, and it would, you know, the harmonic balancer will slide right out. These are, I'm assuming these are called like rods or something. We tried this one. This one was too long, so we tried the next smallest one, and it worked perfectly. So that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, good?
Solid. All right. Oh, that's actually perfect. Oh my gosh. You see the thing doing its job.
Yeah, it's coming.
You feel it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, this might drop too.
Oh, she gonna drop. I'm gonna take that ratchet with it.
I feel it coming out now.
Alright, don't drop it on your head. Oh yeah, she moving.
Okay, correction. Use the longest one. Alright. Because we used the second largest one right here. And it was coming out, but it didn't come out all the way. So we took that out and used this one, and it finally came out. This rod goes into this hole right here. And then you just screw this on here. You can use a socket. You can use the open end of a 3/8 ratchet right here. And let me get this harmonic bouncer pulley. This is it right here. It fits. The claws go behind those rivets right here. And basically it goes in like that. And then you tighten it up and it should come out. Okay, so I got a ratchet and a 10mm socket. All of these bolts are 10mm all the way down. Focus, please, focus. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 bolts, so you just take them off and get to the cam and everything like that and go from there. Now behind this is a timing chain. There's 3 bolts. You take those off. But before you take the timing chain off, you want this engine to be at top dead center. And there will be 2 marks. There'll be a mark on the timing chain and then a mark on the bottom.
Do you know the torque specs to put those back in?
Yeah. All the torque specs are on my phone. I just need to go and get them. God bless.
God dang.
What?
That bitch is on there. You gotta be though.
Alright guys, this is the timing chain and this is the timing gear. This is the oil pump right here. And like I said in the beginning of the video, there's a tube right there. That's the oil pickup tube that connects to the oil pump. All these things are on here. And then this chain should come out like that.
Don't turn it.
Oh, it's not going to turn the motor.
No, I'm saying you don't want to turn that so you don't lose which hole those bolts go in.
Alright. Alright, these are 10mm bolts as well. That's a small cam. Actually, you know what? It's just covered up by the plate. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It just looks small, but when you take this off, it's gonna look a lot bigger.
It's still a baby cam.
It's still a baby cam.
Compared to what you got now.
No, I agree with you. It's still a baby cam.
Oh, yeah.
This cam plate, you have to replace it. Every time you take this cam out or you're doing something with it or whatever, you always replace it. Some guys don't. That's just what I've heard. But if this is, well, since this is my motor in my car, I'm always going to replace it. Because there's a gasket behind this plate. And it's like doing an oil change. When you change your oil, you also want to change your filter. That way there's not any old oil getting picked back up. And I almost dropped that in the motor. Oh my God.
That would have been catastrophic.
Yeah, so
better have a magnet.
Alright. plate comes out like that. Obviously these are not going in yet because you got to turn the cam to get the lifters to push up from the actual lobe of the cam. That way I can slide them in good. So next thing you want to do is take one of your, well, 3 of your water pump bolts, thread them in. You don't really have to thread them all the way in, but just enough to where you can spin in and turn it and take it out. So
once you get one side in, you should be able to get the other side in, huh?
yeah.
It should just slide on in there. Pull, twist and pull. It's still got lobes that it's gonna. There you go. Yeah. It's got stuff it's gonna go over, so you have to twist the lobes to get over those little humps. You have to pull.
Yeah. This one right here.
The lobes.
Look at that lobe. So tiny. So tiny. Look at these lobes. Good Lord, baby. Hell yeah. It's much thicker and bigger, as you can see. So yeah, we're gonna put this in here and we're gonna have some fun. Chop chop, right? Chop chop. My buddy's here helping me out, so, and that's where the condenser is sitting right now. So just lube this whole cam up, front to back, and yeah.
Can't be too much lube.
Huh?
You can never be afraid of too much lube.
Yeah. So we're gonna put a good amount of lube on here and then sit it in here. So yeah, let's get to it.
Everybody needs a chase in their shop.
I'm lubing it really good. Shut up, man. I'm making sure it's lubed pretty good.
It smells funny too.
It does. Oh, come on. Why won't it go in there?
You have a little trouble, mate.
Sheesh.
You gotta spin it slowly.
God bless, dude.
Spin and push. Spin and push. Uh-oh. Screen turned black.
Oh, that's okay. It's still recording. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't hit the... Alright, guys. So here's the new cam plate right here. I'm going to take the water pump bolts out. I got ARP cam plate bolts. And this is the old one right here. It faces like that in there. Now, like I said before, when you're replacing a cam or taking it out, they highly recommend that you replace this cam plate, mainly because it has a gasket around here. So put that to the side. Now, when you put the new timing cover gasket on there, and then the timing cover, the timing chain, and all that kind of stuff, and the bolts on there, don't run the bolts all the way through. And by the way, there's 10 bolts instead of 8. There's 2 on the bottom underneath the oil pan. Make sure you take those out, and I suggest you take those out first before doing any of these other bolts around here, because if you don't and you forget and whatnot, then you might end up breaking that aluminum oil pan down there, since basically this whole engine is aluminum and it's, you know, easier to break and stuff like that. So yeah. Now, when you have it all together and you're about to put the harmonic balancer back on, fit the timing chain, run the bolts by hand, but do not tighten them by hand or torque them or anything. Put the harmonic balancer on there next. That way the timing cover is fitted flush onto the front part of the engine, and torque the bolt. But in my case, I'm just gonna air it down with my air gun and give it 5 to 6 ugga-duggas and be done. You don't necessarily have to torque that bolt, but it's really hard to actually torque it from the begin with, because it was hard to get out too. So a lot of people just put the air gun to it, so that's what I'm gonna do as well. But other than that, this little thing that's sticking out, metal piece that's sticking out, you want it at the, I say 4 o'clock position. This is 12 o'clock up top. 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 o'clock position. The same way you took the timing chain off is the same way you put it back on. And let me show you guys over here. This is basically how it's gonna sit, just like that. Actually, hold on, just like that, because the dot is right there. But that's how it's gonna sit. And you also torque these bolts as well. One more thing, make sure you put some Loctite on these ARP bolts and the camshaft bolts. I'm showing you this old timing cover because I was trying to figure out how this was supposed to sit in here, because I just didn't want to slap it on there. So basically on the back here, you have these lines, line gaskets that go to the hole right here. So when I took it off, it came out like this. And when I turned it around, it had lines on it. And it was the same thing on that new one. So that's how I have it centered and flush with one bolt on there. That way it doesn't fall out. So when I put the timing cover back on, it'll sit somewhat flush. So when you put this gasket on here, I used a flat tip screwdriver because I didn't really have anywhere in this garage to kind of sit this down flush and get a hammer and, you know, a socket, big enough socket or anything to pop it out. So I kind of took a hammer and popped around the sides of this gasket until it kind of popped loose, and then I pried it a little bit. Now you don't want to pry it too much. You will mess up this aluminum and break into it, and you'll have some leaks. So Looks fine to me. That's where I pried a little bit, but let's hope that doesn't leak. But it looks pretty good, pretty solid on both sides. I will put anti-seize on these bolts so it doesn't seize up in here, if nothing else. So what you want to do is grab this thread and this nut and put them all together like this. And then you grab the cranks. Make sure you lube it up with some assembly lube. Is drop this in here like that. And then you place it on there. I don't have a tool to hold the flywheel in place so I could put this on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get somebody to grab a pry bar of some sort and pry it up in there and jam it in there, and so I could put this on. This is a installer tool right here. So once it gets tight, then you loosen this nut up and the thread should come out. That way this harmonic balancer is fitting flush onto the crank shaft right there. And this is really critical because you want this harmonic balancer to be straight. You don't want it to bend or tilt or anything because it's not going to straighten up if it's bent like that. So you want it as straight as possible. So let's do it. Okay. You want to continue ratcheting this. Get something to hold the crank while you put this on, and just keep ratcheting away until you can turn the motor. I forgot to mention that you don't want to lube the gasket on that timing cover. You want to go in dry. Other than that, lube the snout that's the hole in the harmonic balancer, the crank. So next thing, ARP fastener assembly lubrication. Put it on the threads, and then once you put that on the thread, make sure that's in there good. And then just thread the bolt in here. This is an ARP bolt until it fits flush, and then you hammer it on there with a air gun or an electric gun. I've already torqued all the rocker arm bolts. And so basically what you want to do is you want to turn this motor until you can get the rocker arm up to the base circle right here on the top of the valve. And you want a little bit of play on the side, but if you don't have any play up and down, then that means you have the right push rod and everything's Gucci. So basically, when the rocker arm is sitting on top of the base circle, you want to take your ratchet and the tool that you need to, torque down this bolt. What you want to do is come like this, and then you just tighten it down until it doesn't go anymore, until it's snug. And then you take the torque wrench and torque it to 22 foot-pounds. Keep going along the side of the cylinder head, and the same thing on the other side, and that's about it. Now, when you're doing this, like I said before, you turn the motor, so you put a 24 millimeter socket on that bolt, on that crankshaft bolt, and you get a breaker bar or a big ratchet, and you just keep, ratcheting the bolt until the valves come up, and then you do each one. $10mm and 5/16 or 8mm socket on that smaller bolt over in the on the passenger side on the bottom. So I have everything on now. I got the pulleys on that I took off to take the water pump out. I got the water pump on. I got the timing cover back on, valve covers, spark plug wires, coil packs, everything. Every single thing. So now what you want to do with the garage door open, or if you're doing it outside or whatever, what you want to do is mix this coolant, this Dex coolant that I got here. And basically what you want to do is pour about 1 quart of coolant and then 1 quart of distilled water. You can buy this from Walmart, Kroger, wherever. And I basically filled it half and half. And you want to pour this really slow, because if you pour it fast, then this coolant line, I can't remember what it's called exactly, but comment below. But if you pour it too fast, it's gonna come out. But if you pour it kind of slow, it's gonna take some time before this the coolant comes out, because there's gonna be some air in the system, and until it comes out, you want to keep filling. And yeah, as you can see, I took my AC out and all my AC lines, because I bought a plate that's going to replace this whole evaporator right here. I still have my compressor there because my bypass pulley or whatever that I bought from O'Reilly's did not work. The bolts weren't lining up perfectly, so I put the AC compressor back on. And let's remove that hose. I also bought that hose from Advance Auto Parts. That way it can bypass the coolant and run back into the water pump. Like I said, pour slowly, and once you put that back in there, just fill the radiator the rest of the way until it's full, and then, you know, let the car run with the radiator cap off and let it bubble out, let, you know, all the air out of the system. And when it's not bubbling anymore, close it up, shut it off, and then I say turn it back on and make sure everything's Gucci. So yeah. But man, it sounds good. Needs a tune though. Alright, it stopped bubbling, so I think it's good to go. My engine temperature seems to be holding at 209 degrees, and it's not going over. Woo! Rocket Bird sound good! I can't wait to tune this, man. I cannot wait to tune this. I'm so excited. Hell yeah! I haven't put these in yet just because I want the coolant to cycle and all the air to get out of the system and let it run before I put these on. Because if I would have put these on now, then the car would not run at all, because it's not set up for 36 pounds. The stock ones are 28 pounds. So when I get to ACs, I'm going to go ahead and swap them out. I guess after we tune it or before we tune it or whatever we're going to do, you just take 4 bolts out. There's bolts like that right here. There's one in the back somewhere over there, and 2 on the other side, and the rail just pops up. And then you take a tool, and then you come around, and then you just basically snap that on, and then you pull it, and then this hose should come out. That way you can take the fuel rail all the way out, put the new injectors in, and which I'm going to do myself, and then they're going to start tuning the engine and getting it to where it's supposed to be. If y'all like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, Greatest Hits. This video was a little all over the place, and you know, editing this video is going to be a challenge for me because this was a long one for about a week. So hope you guys like it. I did my best, and if I left anything out during the build or anything like that, just let me know. Comment down below. I'm new to the LS game. I am, but I'm not, because I know about LS engines and what they can do. It's just I've never gone this in depth. So that's it. Greatest Hits out.